A Texas Tech athlete where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
I think I'm doing okay.
Just okay?
I wasn't quite sure what to think about this game. I'm still not quite sure what to think about it.
Which
Get
game?
into it. The West Virginia game.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying.
It's not the only game we're talking about tonight.
I've moved on. I don't even know what happened Saturday. I'm so focused
Moved
on
on.
Morgantown. I've just practically been wearing blue and gold all week. It's a solid look. It's
You've
a
been
good color
wearing
Yeah.
their colors
I have to be.
of the opponent?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting take.
It's just assuming the culture and trying to understand. Getting closer to our brethren.
You know what we don't have to assume the culture here, though, Michael?
What's that?
Is that John Denver was a Red Raider.
It's true, he was. Actually attended Texas Tech University.
And you know what that great song everybody likes to point to? I hate to do this, Michael. I hate to do it.
No, you don't.
He was singing about the western part of the state of Virginia, not the state of West Virginia,
It's true.
because the geographical landmarks aren't even in the state of West Virginia.
Also true.
Okay, that is all. You want to...
Which is a confusing song because it's not like it was written in the 1780s or something.
No.
It was written in the 60s, 70s. I mean, this is just a confusing thing. To call a song about West Virginia, but it's really about Western Virginia.
Yeah. It's like West Texas. There's an estate in West Texas.
No.
You're talking about an area of the state. It's a large area of the state that we know basically 35 and west of that.
Well, yeah, I don't,
But-
and there's not even another comparison because there's a North and South Carolina, so that would be almost heaven, North Carolina. So you'd get it. You would know what state they're talking about.
North, South Carolina.
Yeah, South North Carolina. Yeah, you would get it, but it doesn't work that way with Virginia. It's an outlier.
It's okay.
I've never been there, but I think I would love visiting West Virginia.
I'm sure it's great.
Absolutely would love it. Let's go.
I can't remember when this was brought up. It had to do with around the Wyoming game, because they were talking about the elevations in the new Big 12, and that Texas Tech was going to be second highest in the new Big 12 in terms of elevation of the stadium behind Provo. And that they had actually assumed that West Virginia would be pretty far up there because they're in the mountains, they're in the hills, whatever. They're like 1,000, 1,100 feet above sea level. It's like Dallas.
Yeah, they're too close to the ocean.
So even though they're in the mountains, they're 2,500 feet lower than Lubbock. All that to say, Texas Tech will be ready. Book it. We're going to talk about Tarleton State, Michael. I know you said you moved on. We're gonna chop it up for a minute.
Okay.
And Michael and I were talking about this before we hit record, before we hit stream on the old YouTube platform. There will be words spoken in a semi-positive light of our starting quarterback, Mr. Tyler Shuck.
All right.
From me.
I'm prepared.
One of his strongest detractors, haters, whatever. I want to give too much away. Now there are a lot of pieces of statistical evidence that backs up what all of us are seeing. And like, yeah, he's just not the guy. Yeah, I get that. But there's a conversation to be had. And I think there's a reason, and it's a plausible reason why we're seeing comments like he's our starting quarterback from head coach Joey McGuire. Now, whether or not comments like that actually precede a change at quarterback can be, I've seen that point brought up. Like, well, it's not like you see Mike McCarthy going out post game. Well, Dak Prescott's going to be our starting quarterback next week. Really? You had to make that announcement.
It's the vote of confidence. It's like the AD.
Yeah, the vote of confidence for
the head coach. Coach Wells will be here.
He's our guy.
He's our guy.
And then 5 games into the season, you're not our guy.
Yeah.
All that to say, like, offensive woes are to be seen, found, statistically backed up. Which we'll talk about. We'll talk about the greatness that was the running game. We will talk about big plays, how close we got to our pregame predictions. Do you want to talk about the throwback uniform spot in the document?
I put it in there because it sounds like you had some takes on it.
I did.
Wanted to see if they changed once you saw them in action. So,
and then we'll get to our actual West Virginia Mountaineer preview, not Western Virginia. Talk about all of that. Then set the table for the Big 12, the week of Big 12 action. Lots of statements could be made as conference play for the majority of teams are kicking off. I know TCU and Houston have already broken that seal, but most everybody else is opening conference play. There was a new commitment tonight. New wide receiver out of Stephenville. We'll touch on that for half a second. And then we'll wrap it up with what do we learn. So, Michael, I say we just jump into football. Let's not even hit the play button on the bumper. It's too long. I've talked myself out of it. I haven't updated it yet, but it's too long. We're just gonna jump right in. So, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Texas Tech wins Saturday night, 41-3 versus Tarleton State. The pessimist in me, Michael. Texas Tech beats teams like this 63-7 previous years, like they did Murray State last year, like they beat Lamar a few years ago, 77-0, and you only put up 41 against Tarleton. Granted, you were pitching a shutout for most of that night. Ultimately gave it away with a field goal in the fourth quarter. But your starting quarterback and the starting offense essentially were only able to get you 17 points in a little more than half of this football game. That's troublesome.
Yeah, and of those 17 points, I think it was 5 punts out of 8 drives.
Yeah. McNamara punted only 5 times in the night, correct?
Yes, he did not.
So by the time Shuck was off the field, McNamara was also off the field.
Yes. If I remember right, Morton's drives resulted in a field goal, touchdown, interception.
That is accurate. I'm looking in right now. Okay, so offensively, first and second down, you were better. Your average distance on third down this past weekend was 5.6 yards, which is still a ton, especially against an FCS opponent. On your third down attempts, which you converted 6 of. Only 43%, which is not good. You were
That's
2 for
gotta be
2 on
higher
4th down.
against an FCS team at home.
Yeah, it has been higher against other opponents when you had, even longer 3rd downs to pick up. But yeah, you got to be better than 43% on 3rd down. 2 for 2 on 4th down. So offensive woes, here's what I'm going to say. Like, I don't know because I'm not the coach. I'm not on the coaching staff. I'm not privy to all the conversations, all the film, all the practices, all of that kind of stuff. I can tell you what my eyes see and what the stats say. Offense is bad. One, I don't know if he's staff or just a trusted contributor over on Red Raider Sports says basically the offense needs to be rebuilt from the ground up, and you've got a few days to do it. I don't know if it needs to be that extreme. I know when we see Tyler Shough on the field, the offense, well, let's put it this way. The offense has been inconsistent thus far this year. It's been bad in a lot of spots. Where it does fall on Shough, I mean, there's this metric, PFF offensive grades, QBR, and I think it had Shough at like a 16, which is wild. In terms of QB play for week 3, there's a chart that's circulating on Twitter. It just kind of tracks every starting quarterback from the weekend. In a quadrant, obviously you want to be top right. It starts bottom left is like the worst and trends towards the top right. Shough is among the bottom in the bottom left. There was another stat from the Twitter account Road to College Football, Road to CFB. And it says, while it loads, highest self-inflicted quarterback pressure rate with a minimum of 20 pressures. Seth Hennigan from Memphis, Shadur Sanders from Colorado, Tyler Shough, Mitch Griffiths from Wake Forest, and Cam Ward from Wazoo.
So what exactly does that mean? That they hold on to the balls longer than the pocket can hold, basically?
Well, so what I think it is that either it's probably a combination of them holding onto the ball or them bailing on a clean pocket. The tweet finishes, it says the first 4 quarterbacks, which would include Shough, have allowed more pressure themselves than any offensive line position on the field. So it's not like we have a bad left tackle, say, or bad right guard or whatever, where you're getting a lot of pressure consistently. Like, he's doing it more to himself than anyone else is doing to him. You're not getting beat anywhere else besides Shough doing it to himself. Now, having said all that, I think where we can understand where Joey McGuire and Kitley are coming from when they're standing behind Shough is that we've seen him play some really outstanding football for Texas Tech. We can't forget, I mean, it was 9 months ago now, but that bowl game against Ole Miss, dude was lights out. Like, we've seen flashes of him being really, really good. And I think that's what's really contributing to a lot of the fans' frustration, is that we saw him be good at the end of last year. We expected that and then some to continue to build, improve. And what we've seen so far is a pretty significant step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, which is kind of hard to stomach on a 6th-year player.
Yeah, and again, to his defense there, like, this is something that I didn't find this out. I'm repeating this from those that track this a little bit better. I believe it was Kyle that said like he's not like a normal 6-year player. He only has like 2 years worth of starts under his belt. As a guy like Bo Nix has literally 50 games. He's just not the same. But still, that's 6 years or 5 or 6 years of prepping for games, studying film, being under the tutelage of great quarterback coaches and offensive coordinators. His second year in a system, that's usually when you see the biggest jump in offensives and from quarterbacks in terms of performance. Year 1 to year 2. And it's going the wrong direction. So, again, I will say it's not just the quarterback. Like how many guys around the offense can we say like, man, like we just need them to be like, they're a guy, like they're a dude, right? Taj Brooks. Is there anybody else? Maybe. The fact that it's taking you that long to think about it, like, I mean, you've had a couple of plays here and there, but like, it just feels like every position group around you, like, you're looking for like, man, we could just really use one more person to step up. Like Duran Bradley, he's good, but he hasn't been the guy. Miles Price, senior, like you want to see more of him. You want to see more of Xavier White.
Tharp's close if they actually get the ball to him more often.
Yeah. Okay. So Tharp would be a player I would look towards and say like he's the guy that you would point to and say like you can track his progression and he continues to improve, and actually getting him the ball more. And he's I made fun of the Texas Tech Twitter account for talking about like his career night. Was it 2 weeks ago? But like if you're putting career nights together, like you can continue to build on that. Like he's finally being utilized in a way that we've all hoped he would. I mean, he's nearly 7 feet tall. Like he's a matchup nightmare.
Yeah, he's got great hands.
And he can block.
He runs solid routes. I mean, he's a good player.
And then like, you just like the offensive line, I was super high on what they'd be able to do with all this age and returning production and just experience. I would have expected more. We thought Shough was going to be pretty good. We knew Brooks was good. We thought he'd have some guys around him, and unfortunately, we've had to be without Valdez due to injury. I think he should be back fully very soon, if not this week. I think they said he was ready to go if necessary past weekend. Then you saw Nehemiah Martinez working some in the backfield, which was pretty good. Then you saw Bryson Donnell, towards the end of the game. But like, it's all that to say, I know there are things that are negatively showing up in stat sheets and all that kind of stuff against Shough, and I'm not defending him in the sense that like we just need to be patient. But like we've seen him be good, and I think that's where a lot of our expectations are coming from. But I'm also saying like it's not just him. So
no, which he didn't do himself any favors, because my theory.
No, he didn't.
My theory was after the Oregon game, when the ball is put in his hands, I think he threw it 40 times and he ran for 23. So 63 plays or whatever, it's solely up to him on how to execute it properly. Hand the ball off. That was my solution. Maybe don't put that in his hands so much. And so that's exactly what they did this last week against an FCS opponent. But he still could not find open receivers, and he was missing open receivers, and he was 50% on his completion, and they still handed the ball off to Taj Brooks 19 times or whatever it was. So they did what I hoped they would do to kind of take that burden off his shoulders, and then he wasn't able to capitalize on it. I'm sure he's frustrated too, but like you said, we have seen him play a lot better than that. And when you're told by the head coach that that's who's going to be playing, then you just start getting your mind right and saying, okay, well, we're going to hold you to it, coach, and we're going to expect better performance, because I'm sure Shuck was disappointed, and so was McGuire, even though, Tech won in a runaway blowout. But it was not the manner in which we probably expected it to be. You're hoping you'd hope it was 17. Okay, the offense only scored 17. You'd hope it'd be 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. Something
It
like
nearly
that.
was.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was. I don't know. It was close, but it wasn't just on the offense. Love that Malik Dunlap got in there and had that pick six, but anyways. Yeah, it was 21-0 after the first quarter.
Oh, okay.
24-0 at half.
So only got a field goal in the third quarter or the second quarter.
Second quarter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, where you did well, and I think this is like vindication for all of us fans clamoring for it. And I don't think McGuire and Kitley are stupid, but it's not like they were sticking their head in the sand like we're going to force it through Shuck and we're going to avoid, playing Brooks or whatever. But you ran the ball 39 times and picked up 221 yards on the ground, 5.7 yards per carry. I love that. I'm not tied to an offensive identity in the sense that like we're Texas Tech and we have to throw the ball 60 times a game. I don't care. I don't care if you run it 40, 50 times a game.
You know what? I mean, I agree with you, but I do care when it's so bonkers off the wall different each week. So far, we've had 3 different games, and they've had zero identity in any of them. I mean, the third one, we ran the ball a lot. The second one, we ran the quarterback a lot. The first one, I don't know what the hell we were doing, but it wasn't successful. And Brooks probably got as many touches in overtime as he did in the rest of regulation in Laramie. But
yeah,
that's my only thing with that. I agree. I am not sold on a scheme per se. But man, I would like, I was kind of, you know what? I'm walking it completely back. I was sold on complementary, balanced football. We haven't seen it. And I would like to see it. And it's going to be really tough to do that this week. We'll get to it some more, but West Virginia loves to stop you from running the football. So they may have to switch back. That's what I'm worried about. I don't know if they're going to overcorrect and come out with a game plan where Tech's going to throw 45 times and hand it off 10. Because that may be all the possessions you get against this West Virginia team.
Yeah, maybe. So this offensive success rate did pick up a little bit as expected against an FCS opponent. It's your highest so far in this season. Overall for the game was 46%. It was highest in the first quarter, 57%. It's lowest in the second quarter. You put up 3 points, dropped down to 36. Higher in the middle of the 3. It didn't record any stats, any of the success rates in the fourth quarter because at that point it was just garbage time. But you ran the ball, and I think that was what we saw. That was like your success overall came from a commitment and a game plan to run the ball. On passing downs, again, this is directly on the quarterback. You were most successful passing downs in the first quarter. Worst in the second quarter. You went from 67% success rate on passing downs to 14%. First quarter to second quarter. It ticked up to 25% in the third quarter. So I don't want to get too much in West Virginia preview just yet, so I'm going to stop it right there. Defense this past weekend, you did take 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions, including the pick 6 by Malik Dunlap. He had 2 interceptions himself. Rabbit had the other one. You had 3 sacks, 6 total tackles for loss. You did see some young contributors, and really excited about their future, their ability to grow and develop with this staff. We already talked about McNamara. We talked about in the post Garcia get on the field without it being just a manic rush to get him on the field and kick with the game on the line. He was 2 for 2 on the night from 28 and 43 yards. Big plays, and I don't want to like just obliterate this dead horse, but you give the ball to Taj Brooks on your first run play, 38 yards. Let's do it. Again, it's going to be a little bit different this weekend against a team that is really good at stopping the run, but I mean, have them stop you then, because that's been your most successful piece of this offense far. I think that touchdown to Miles Price was a pretty big play, and it was thrown by Morton. It was an example of him throwing a good ball where only Price could get to it. Now, whether or not he actually caught it, it's up for debate. I think I know they reviewed it, and I know they had the play stand. But that's huge. And it came after Price had a pretty significant drop earlier in that drive or the drive before it. So it was good to get him rolling. And then Miles Coleman, he had that sack on 4th down. One of your 3 sacks of the night, he had that sack on 4th down to get you the ball back. Those are a handful of the big plays I wanted to point out. Did you have any others on your mind, Michael?
Those were the main ones.
Okay.
I think maybe not a big play, but that first scoring drive on offense, just how it lined up, that, handing the ball to Taj Brooks to start it off, like you just mentioned, that 38-yard. And then I think Taj got it 2 or 3 more times on the drive. And then once they got to the goal line, Shuck had the option to hand it to Brooks again, but he kept it and made the right decision. And
I will disagree with, well, I won't disagree that it was the right decision. I would say I think either one of them would have worked out. I did rewatch it, and
there were some linemen pulling to the right that probably would have gotten Brooks into the end zone.
I think obviously Shuck pulling it was successful. He walked in untouched and scored. I think Brooks would have also scored had he handed the ball off to Brooks. I think it was just a really well drawn up and executed play. Both options would have worked.
And so all I was getting at on that was,
sorry,
more of a big drive than a big play, because they actually set it up and the defense bought it completely.
Yeah.
And Shuck walked right in.
You mean instead of throwing play action passes several times before actually running the ball?
Yeah, and just allowing the pressure to get to you, as has been pointed out by whoever tweeted that.
Yeah. So coming into the game, Michael and I were a little more down on the defensive performance than what we actually saw. I threw out 45-17. Offensively, I wish you had scored more than that, but you scored 41. You only gave up 3. Michael, you were way down on the defense. Thought they'd give up 21 points, man. 3 touchdowns.
I'm going to revisionist
I'm giving you a
history
hard
that.
time.
No, and I really thought there might be a pick 6 in there.
Okay, so your defense would have given up 14, but
yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah. Throwback uniforms. So when it came out, Michael, I didn't like them.
You did.
I still don't like them. I still don't like them. They're just. I'm a podcast host. I'm not a uniform designer. And I don't know if this is if it matters which brand is doing throwbacks. I don't know if like Adidas or Nike have better throwbacks. I know the ones from Mississippi State, all those, the horizontal maroon and white stripes were horrendous. I don't even know. I don't even know if that was facetious or not. If it was an actual throwback or they were making fun of something. There were just 18 different design elements that were kind of thrown together, felt like haphazardly. And I get it. I get that they looked at uniforms from, I believe, the 60s and basically recreated them and then added a couple of things. Michael, are we in a safe space here?
Yeah, go for it.
Just because it's old doesn't mean it's worthy of a throwback. Doesn't mean it's good.
Well, and then they changed it enough to make you go, well, why'd you add all these stripes, or why did you do that? And I'm not someone who is a fan of 3 different color helmet, jersey, and pants. So when that first got announced and they first showed it, and you've got the black helmet, red jersey, white pants, I pick 1 or 2 colors. I don't really like the mix of all 3.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that live and in person and watching them play, I thought it looked a lot better. And I realize I'm wearing a cap that has a black front and a red bill and white mesh, but that's because I really wanted to stand out and to pop.
Sure.
So, and it was
Well, you're
because
not wearing a uniform, so
that was what Cardinals
okay.
had. But I don't know. As much as I thought, man, I don't really like picking 3 different colors. I do think it looked really well. And I think you should clarify. You like throwback uniforms.
I do. I just think that
and the flat double T. I just don't want people to come harass you for that, because you do like the flat double T, right?
I do. I'm also not completely opposed to the 3D double T. A lot of that's going to be colored by like I'm a younger fan, newer fan of Texas Tech. Like my freshman year was 2007. Like we were well entrenched in the 3D double T at that point. The Bass Boat glitter helmets, I like them, man. I like the uniforms back then. I it feels like you've been stable enough that you've kind of carved out an identity, like a uniform identity the past few years, but like there was a decade of like enough changes and enough like weird things happening that like I didn't like them. Starting with Tuberville, and I know some of those uniforms were special occasions for wounded soldier, wounded warrior, and then you had like the Texas Pride ones. I'm out on most of those. I know people hated the ombre jerseys, the uniforms. I didn't hate the ones they wore in Stillwater. I hated the red to black ones they wore against Oklahoma. Anyways, you said I agree with you. I don't like the 3 different uniform color combination: helmet, jersey, pants. And I know that the black helmet gray face mask was again a part of the 1960s uniform. I don't like adding a 4th color into that mix. On principle, I don't like wearing white at home. I think it's a little bit better, more palatable for me, and this is again my opinion, if it's like white, red, white, as opposed to like
got some color.
black, black, white, or black, red, white. I just like the black pants at home. If you want to wear white, have it be part of the road rotation where you can do white or black pants. The black, white, black combination, top down, is a good road combination. Black, red, black, I think is great at home. All black for special night games. Call it good. Have a throwback. If you want to, incorporate a throwback look into one of those combinations, but that's me, man. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm old enough to have, when I was a kid, I was given Texas Tech stuff that had the flat double T. because that was the official logo. And then when they changed, it seems like the designers changed a little bit too, because man, there's some photos, and I remember some hats I had and stuff. Those were some of the ugliest hats. They were just all over the place. This flat double T was just everywhere, with like the seal. Who puts the seal on a hat? So
Don't know,
I
man.
think it's a combination of they just got better at it, and they changed it kind of at the same time they started getting better at it, and so now we're seeing these cleaner designs with the older logo, and everyone's going, "Oh, well, the older logo is so much better." But I'm still old enough to remember some really crappy looking, uh, shirts and hats and stuff with that old logo on it. That doesn't mean it was always just used perfectly, I guess. So I think that's part of it. A lot of people are seeing newer designs with the older logo, and wishing for a simpler time. And then you go back and look at some of the actual stuff people were wearing in the 80s and 90s with that logo on, and you're like, ooh. I'm glad we're doing it this way now. Anyway, we should probably move on to something else.
Well, one more thing. Okay, so
Okay.
I was just thinking about this as you're talking about throwbacks and going to just way back. One, I was thinking, is there going to be some kind of tied to this centennial, which Texas Tech, the university, is celebrating this year, but it's not a centennial for football. They didn't start playing football until 1925. Do you think they're going to have a centennial themed jersey either this year or in 2 years in 1925?
It would make sense to wait until it's 100 years of the football program, but I don't know if they can use the same logo, because I would imagine that 100 that they've kind of been
Yeah.
putting on all of the merchandise and stuff they've been putting out this last year, I'm sure is only associated with the school itself. So maybe they still can use it on the uniforms, but I would imagine they'd have to do something.
So the uniform from their first season was a plain top with just Tech across the front.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. We're getting some comments on YouTube. Tad saying that he liked the gray face masks as a true throwback to that era, not as a permanent change, obviously. And then Haley is saying, "Dude, stop. You must accept that you're a statistical outlier on uniforms. That's okay, but you're on the extreme periphery."
I assume he's talking about me, and that's
Probably.
okay.
And it's weird. It's like I don't ever have a take on uniforms, but every now and then I do, and I feel really strongly about it. So I usually make fun of people who have strong takes on uniforms, and then when I have one, I realize I should probably walk that back.
I'm not one that's gonna get all like up in arms and be like, we're the Red Raiders, we have to wear red. That's not like I make fun of those guys. But okay, it's fine. It's fine. I that's fair. We can move on. I'm just responding to something Michael put in the notes.
Yeah.
And I had opinions on it. I thought they were bad. But like I said, it's my opinion, so
It's true.
it's okay that I'm alone on that. All right, let's preview the West Virginia Mountaineers. Texas Tech, after beating an FCS opponent, did move up in the S&P Plus rankings to 36th. They are facing off number 60 West Virginia Mountaineer team, which is a little bit surprising, but I guess we were kind of expecting West Virginia to be down this year. Game time set for 2:30 on ESPN Plus. Almost hard to believe that Neil Brown's been there for 5 years already. Just under 500 on his career record. 14-21 though in Big 12 play as a head coach, which is not good. And he was 0 for against Matt Wells, which was saying something. So far he's 0 for against McGuire, but he's only had one shot at him. So far this season they're 2-1. We know that they lost pretty bad against Penn State. Picked it up against Duquesne, and then had the surprise upset based on the predictions for the game going in against Pitt. Pitt may just be really bad, but they won even without Garrett Green, 17-6. Garrett Green, I believe, is out for this weekend. I think they were trying to get him back in for the game.
Yeah, I
but
know that he didn't practice Monday or Tuesday. That much I know for sure. And it's an ankle injury, but I haven't really seen much discussion beyond that.
yeah, they went with their former 4-star quarterback, Markiel, Nico Markiel, redshirt freshman. 6'1", 225, was 13-23, completing just over 50% of his passes, 135 yards and a touchdown. Ran the ball 14 times for 39 yards. But their rushing game, their running backs, I think we talked about this, even with Garrett Green, was going to be their offense. CJ Donaldson and Jalen Anderson. Donaldson is carrying the bulk of the carries, 49 carries for 250 yards, just under 5 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. Anderson, 28 carries, 108 yards, so just under 4 yards per carry and a touchdown. These are big dudes. CJ Donaldson, 6'1", 240. Like, that's a big running back. Anderson's 5'11", 215. These guys will thump you pretty good. When they do throw, they've got a couple guys on the outside, Hudson Clement and Devin Carter. Clement is a freshman, 6'1", 199. So far, 6 catches for 187 yards, 3 touchdowns. Carter is a redshirt senior, 6'3", 215, 7 catches for 100 yards. And then tight end Cole Taylor Jr., big dude, 6'7", 250, 8 catches, again, 107 yards, just like Carter. But he does add a touchdown to his name. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
So another thing to mention on this, they use Cole Taylor a lot, or they'll bring in a second tight end actually, and they'll use them to run block, and so they'll swing and go one side or the other and block for Donaldson or Anderson. There was a third running back too who'd gotten a lot of carries, but he only played in the first 2 games. So I'm unsure if he got hurt. I should have put his name in here anyway. But just to give y'all an idea, I mean, part of it may be because QB1 went down so early. So last week, hosting Pitt, Garrett Green threw 2 passes before he was out of the game. Nico Markel only threw 9. So as a team, they threw 11 passes, and they rushed it 51 times. So CJ Donaldson had 18 attempts for 102 yards. Jalen Anderson had 19 attempts for 62 yards. They're going to run the ball, folks.
That's okay.
And I mean, I think that's what we're going to kind of get into is, to me, I was talking to a friend earlier, and this kind of feels like a Wyoming team on steroids offensively. Just a really strong rushing team with some really big tight ends. They don't have quite as many guys that they're rotating in at the running back position as Wyoming did. I swear Wyoming just ran out 6 running backs because they could. But it kind of feels that same way, but with, some Power 5 talent behind it.
Yeah, a little bit. They're averaging 200 rushing yards per game and almost 4.5 yards per carry, which is a lot. Again, a lot of like what you saw against Pitt. I mean, they are throwing for 180 yards per game, so not doing a whole lot through the air. But when they do, they're getting 7.7 yards per attempt. So they're finding their spots. They are scoring just under 30 points per game, where Texas Tech is allowing 25. Defensively, Texas Tech allows teams to throw for 235 yards and 5.8 yards per attempt, 143 yards on the ground for 0.9 yards per carry. So the middle of this defense and how committed DeRuyter is, or how he's going to commit guys into the box, is going to be a big determining factor for this game, obviously. And then being disciplined enough that you're not going to get lulled into, they just ran it 15 times in a row and they just obliterate you with a play action pass where nobody's paying attention. If they're going to throw it 12 times a game, you need to be ready for those 12 attempts and not just so. When Texas Tech has the ball, Texas Tech has moved up to number 18 offensively against a not bad defense, but not, statistically great. I think, in terms of S&P Plus, they're just a few spots better than Tech, where Tech is 73rd, West Virginia's defense is 70th. They're led by their linebacker, Lee Pogba, 22 tackles, 12 solo. Their second leading tackler, Trey Lathan, is a linebacker, then cornerback, Beanie Bishop. They've racked up 6 sacks. I would say only 6 sacks. It's 2 per game on the season, led by a defensive lineman, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, Michael. You want to give it a shot?
Tomiwa Durojaya.
Tomiwa Durojaya. Sure. Is he a defensive end?
Well, he's just listed as a lineman. I didn't actually look to see where he lined up, but I'm sure he's on the edge.
Yeah, 6'4", almost 280.
Yeah,
it's a big dude out there. And then a junior. Okay, so the position you've got marked as BAN. You think that's Banshee?
Could be.
Well, banjo?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know the nomenclature for the West Virginia defense.
That was his position. That was his position listed from the website for Tyron Bradley. Tyron
Bradley. It's a junior from Lubbock.
Yeah, from a Monterey Plainsman coming back. So he's got the. So Durojaya has 2.5 sacks, and Tyron Bradley has 1, and then there's a couple other guys with half sacks in there.
They've got 5 interceptions on the season. 3 of them were against Pitt, so they also had a 3 interception game, just like Tech did. Beanie Bishop's the number 3 in tackles, has 2 of those 5 interceptions. They're not great against the pass, Michael. They give up 215 yards at 7.9 yards per attempt, but they are really stout against the run. 93 rushing yards allowed per game, 2.8 yards per carry, and this is. Again, they've had a game against an FCS and then potentially a bad Pitt team. But they're 3 games in, and they're allowing fewer than 100 yards per game, less than 3 yards per carry, where Texas Tech is allowing 143 yards per game and almost 4 yards per carry. So same type of thing. They played a Power 5. They played I guess they played 2 Power 5.
Yeah, they played
in an FCS. State. Yeah, Penn State and Pitt. They are allowing teams to score 20 points per game. Texas Tech is scoring just under 35 points per game. Having said all that, Michael, and having my trepidations about being able to lean on your running game, because it's been what's been good for you so far this season against the teeth of this defense, their strength. Texas Tech is about a touchdown favorite on the road. How does that make you feel? Are you nervous about that?
Yes.
Is that about right?
I'm nervous about it. I was really nervous about it until I started looking more into last week's game with Pitt, because I know that Pitt has traditionally not been very good at football, but they have done a lot better the last couple seasons. But they had an awful game in Morgantown, and their quarterback, if you go back up to your chart that you showed me earlier, he was Phil, whatever his name, I can't read it.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Even worse on the negative incline there than Shuck was,
Yes. And then slightly better was West Virginia's backup quarterback. So I'm just
but
saying that,
also not good.
yeah, what made me feel some better is I was like, oh man, it kind of turned my head. West Virginia won this game, this historical game that means a ton to their fans. I'm glad they got to play it. I'm glad they got a home and home of this game and got to redeem themselves from last year, how it ended. But Pitt gave them the game. You know, those 3 interceptions were awful. They were they were just not even close. And they were all bad throws. They were all throws that the quarterback shouldn't have made. And, I think most all of them had a really great return. So I don't think, that started to make me feel better. That West Virginia, yeah, they got those 3 interceptions, but it's not like they even had to work for them. Someone just threw
Mm-hmm.
them the ball 3 times.
Well,
Just said, here you go.
to be fair, some of Shuck's interceptions have looked like that.
It's true. It's very true. So I'm kind of in a chicken egg situation right now where I talk myself into that win doesn't look as good as it did because Pitt handed them the game. But then also I've seen Texas Tech hand Oregon a game, kind of in the same manner.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that that's possible, and I've seen just some untimely throws. And then also I'm seeing this defense will probably force Tech to throw, even if they do go in and try to run the ball. They may not be as successful as they want to be, or they may abandon it too soon. Um, if and they may not want to risk Brooks getting overworked because he's the main guy. He's really the only guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Martinez is getting some carries, not quite the same when he's in. I still think he's doing a fine job for bouncing around in position groups. But having Valdez back will be great if he can fully go. That way Brooks can have, a little bit of rest, and that way Kitley can feel like he's got a chance to run Brooks some more if he needs to, and knowing that he's got somebody who can come in and take some reps and give him a breather. But I don't know how I feel about this. As we've sat here, I've changed my mind like 3 times. All I know so far is, Tech at -6. I don't feel great about that. Then again, West Virginia is probably forced to play their redshirt freshman quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's not ideal for them. Another thing in Tech's favor, though, West Virginia has yet to give up an interception this year. And so if there's going to be an interception thrown, hopefully it's the red shirt quarterback's first start when he throws his, when he throws his 10th pass in 2 weeks. Maybe it'll sail off for a pick 6 or something.
So
I still haven't predicted. You go.
No, I'm not even ready to give you that. I was going to talk more about the stats from this Pitt game. In a game where Pitt attempted 20 passes and completed 8, again, they were pretty committed. I mean, they only ran 56 plays on the night. They threw it 20 times.
3 of them ran West Virginia.
3 of those, yeah. So they ran it 36 times, and they weren't bad on the ground. 3.6 yards per carry, 130 yards. That's not terrible. Like West Virginia was not actually all that good running the ball this weekend. 51 attempts and picked up 150 yards. 3.0 yards per carry.
And I think Pitt had a fumble too on a running play. I think there might have been 4 turnovers total. I might be missing that somewhere, but it was just a really, really bad game from Pitt.
Well, okay, so part of West Virginia's rushing total includes 30 yards lost. That may have been some sacks in there too. Obviously, there would be sacks, and I don't know if the play that Green was hurt on was a sack, but they netted 151 rushing yards on 51 attempts. Even if they picked up 180 rushing yards on 51 attempts, that doesn't scare me. That doesn't bother me.
It's true.
Let's do this math really quickly. I can't do that in my head because I'm stupid. 3.5 yards per carry. That doesn't bother me. If you gave up 3.5 yards per carry against this team that has nothing else to do, I would be. If you told me Texas Tech allowed West Virginia to run for 3.5 yards per carry, I'm telling you Texas Tech is winning that game.
Okay. So TTU -6 on the road. Point
With an
total is
over
55.
55. It's pretty low. And with the offensive issues we talked about at the top of the episode. Texas Tech 27. West Virginia 24.
Okay. So you're taking the under, right?
Under and West Virginia to cover, yes. But Tech to win, which is all that really matters.
Okay, I'm going to be a little more bullish, which I'm surprised. I told my friend earlier there's no way I would do this way. I'm going to pick Tech to win by a touchdown, but I'm unsure how yet. I think I'm going to go basically with what you did. But instead of 27-24, I'm going to go 31-24. Oh, that's a push. Who wants to do a push on the over-under? Let me change that.
23. Just to have it be weird. Have it have some like a missed extra point or a
I kind of want
2 field goals to touchdown.
Someone they go for 2 once. 31-25.
Yeah, because they're set up for that last drive to take the lead and actually get that last drive.
Yeah,
so okay.
They're trying to get that, and then Tech wins. Yeah, that's what it is. So 31-25. Of course, then now that's a push on the. Dang it. Now that's a push on the -6. Okay.
23 would have been better.
Yeah, let's do 23, and then I'll take the under.
Because there's always like a weird score number with these Tech West Virginia games. It feels like.
I'm just going to bank on the fact that that hopefully West Virginia will turn the ball over. Our defense will play well. They'll get the first interception from these guys on the season. I'm going to lean on the fact that while running the ball will not be nearly as effective as it was against Tarleton State, I don't think anyone would expect that, but it'll be effective enough, and that Shuck will play much better, have a good focused game, take control of the ball, and find Tharp, find Miles Price, find Bradley.
Jordan Brown.
Let's
get him involved.
Great. Yeah, I mean, hopefully Fungi can work himself back in a little bit more and get into that rotation. Cup, I think, will be available again. I think he was out last week. So that's it. I'm just going in with some optimism. I'm a Tech fan, though. I know it can all come crashing down, but I think that as this defense is only allowing 20 points a game, but Tech does have, I think, on their best days they have a better offense than this defense. So that's what I'm going to go with. It's going to be a good day. 31-23.
Well, if you look at the it's the number 18 offense versus the 70th defense. So when Tech has the ball, 18 versus 70. When West Virginia has the ball, it's 51 versus 73. They have the 51st best offense versus the 73rd defense. Net advantage there is Texas Tech, but you're on the road. You haven't. You played one game on the road. It was Laramie, and it has its own weirdness to it. You're not playing at night, which is reduces a little bit of the benefit, the net benefit for West Virginia, I think. So obviously their environment at home. Granted, it was a rivalry game, but it was at night. I don't think you're going to see that same environment. They've always been up for the Tech games, though. So, anyways,
I feel like we've talked ourselves.
I've talked myself into a win. I've also talked myself into saying
9 different ways
that 24 points feels like a lot for West Virginia, and I want to like let's not give up 24, but Texas Tech is giving up 25 on the season, so.
Well, 31 feels like a lot for Tech to me, to be able to pull that off.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Before we get to setting up the rest of the Big 12 slate for what I'm going to call Statement Saturday, I'm going to pull a bit from the Solid Verbal, at least for now. You got a lot of games, opportunities for Big 12 teams to come out and say something. You had a player come out and say something. 2025 2025 wide receiver out of Stephenville, Tristan Gentry, committed tonight. 6'1", 165, a little bit slighter build there. Dude's a productive receiver for that team. Recently, this was a week ago, so last week's performance got him. So not this past weekend, but the weekend before. He had 8 receptions, 252 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So what is that? More than 30 yards per catch.
31 and a half.
Half of his catches were touchdowns.
Good Lord.
That landed him on a nomination for Gatorade Bowl, Mr. Texas Football Player of the Week. So.
Well, he hated to beat his hometown team. That same week he had such a dominant performance.
Yeah, it happens though. Still him, getting him out of Stephenville, and I believe Coy Eakin is also from there, right? He's the guy that like blew up in the playoffs, and we're like, let's take him.
Isn't there a song called "Leaving Stephenville"?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a Kyle Park song.
But can I also just say, like, it's great to have him. I don't want to just unload all kinds of unrealistic expectations on Micah Hudson, but Micah Hudson should be here and establishing his own presence and thumbprint on this offense by the time that Gentry makes it to campus.
Yeah, and I think Gentry, this is his first offer.
Yeah, it is.
I think,
and that doesn't bother me as much as it used to, because I
no,
just not like my confidence in the staff.
No, not at all. What I'm getting at is watch the other offers start pouring in because Texas Tech gave him one.
And that's the kind of respect that they get.
Yeah.
In the industry.
That's fine.
Yeah. That's great. All right. Big 12 slate for September the 23rd. Again, I'm calling it Statement Saturday. Is Oklahoma as good as they've put up so far this season? Outside of maybe that SMU game, they are on the road in Cincinnati, 14.5-point favorites. 11 a.m. kickoff on Fox. Is that the big noon game then?
It's got to be. It's OU.
Okay.
I just like that it was another time just to put OU on at 11 a.m.
Yeah, because they love it. They love that.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they were hyping it up as Cincy's first Big 12 game to host, and it seems kind of interesting that this one got elected for Big Fox, the big nooner.
Yeah. One bad performance isn't like, I'm not like all out on Cincinnati, but I think we're undervaluing maybe how good Oklahoma may be this year. And that may just be from a Texas Tech standpoint because they're not on our schedule. So, like,
Yeah.
literally don't even care.
I have not been paying attention to them aside for this podcast. That's the only reason I'll look up what they did.
So, just as an outside, give me OU in the points. Give them a win by like 21, 24 points.
Yeah, I agree. Since he's struggled at Pitt, but they did win. They had a convincing win against Eastern Kentucky. Okay, but yeah, the overtime loss, hosting Miami, Ohio. I don't know if they quite bounce back this week, so I would take OU just because of what they did at Tulsa. Really,
Yeah.
Couldn't care what they did at Arkansas State versus SMU was kind
They
of
made Butch Jones cry, man.
But they went to Tulsa and won by almost 50. So
Yeah. 7 touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's rough. SMU coming across town to take on TCU in Fort Worth. TCU is a touchdown favorite at home versus SMU.
That seems like an easy pick to me.
That's
TCU.
Give me TCU to cover that. After they just, I wouldn't say blew out, but they beat Houston on the road by 3 touchdowns.
Handily.
Yeah. BYU getting their first Big 12 play on the road at Kansas. Again, BYU's coming off a big road win at Arkansas. Are they better than maybe we anticipated BYU being this year? Is this a spot for Kansas to solidify that they're actual? I wouldn't say contenders, but they're on their way up. It's a great spot, man. Good spot for both these teams to come out and say something. Kansas is almost 10-point favorites, 9.5-point favorites, 230 ESPN. So you can flip from the app to your TV or vice versa with your tech game. You can watch it simultaneously if you care that much in Big 12 football to have 2 Big 12 games on at the same time. Man, as a Kansas believer, like I would want to take Kansas here,
That's a big line.
Give me BYU to cover, like Kansas to win, but BYU to cover.
I'm leaning that way too, but I could see BYU coming in and winning. To go into Fayetteville and get a road win there. That's not easy. And Kansas went to Nevada last week, 20-something point favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Got out of there with a touchdown win, 31-24. So they still won, obviously, but I don't know if they're built to cover just yet. So I'm going to pick BYU plus 9.5. But I wouldn't be too surprised if Kansas or if BYU actually won. That's a weird thing to say. If BYU actually won in Lawrence.
Lawrence.
What a crazy thing.
Okay, speaking about crazy things, do you know what the over-under is for this Oklahoma State-Iowa State game is?
No, I thought...
whatever it is, it's too high.
The 30s. I saw it in the 30s the last I checked.
It's too high. Iowa State...
I'm going to look while you're talking.
On the road in Ames, Iowa State is a 3.5-point favorite, which is wild to me. That Oklahoma State has fallen as much as they have just in the 3 weeks that we've started this. We played football this year. That against a team with no offense, like literally no players on offense, and I will keep saying that because, again, I don't have any kind of perspective on Iowa State football. I'm going to watch them. I don't care. They're not on my schedule this year. Iowa State is getting 3.5 points at home, which is wild. Like, I don't think either team could score the over-under here of 36.5, which Michael just found. No team has scored 36 points. The highest output of any of these teams was 30 points from Iowa State against Northern Iowa. Oklahoma State hasn't hit 30. It gave up 33 this past weekend against South Alabama at home. That's fun. Like whatever Oklahoma State can try to put together an offense, they're going up against a really good, stout Iowa State defense. On the flip side, Iowa State has no offense. Like, this is going to be just a drag to watch. Why that's on FS1 and not like the Ocho.
FS2.
Nobody wants to watch this game.
This
Nobody.
this is like a 13-9 kind of game, but I have no idea who's going to win it. I mean, I would
Like
lean
one total touchdown
towards.
scored in the game.
Yeah, I think I would lean toward Oklahoma State winning. So I would take them also because I just have trouble taking Iowa State favored against a conference opponent right now. But I would take Oklahoma State plus 3.5, but I have no idea who's going to win this game.
I would love to see it be like 13-12.
Yeah, me too. Or 11-5.
And like not having to actually watch that game because that would be
No,
just a beating.
Just see the score. Just know that
Yeah.
it happened. Not sit through it and yeah.
Houston getting 12.5 points hosting Sam Houston State. Yikes.
Houston on Houston.
I mean, Houston's going to win this game. No. The Houston Cougars are going to win this game. And they'll cover, but yeah.
Will they?
That's all I
Will
got.
they though? I'm going to pick Sam Houston plus 12.5 based off of BYU only putting 14 on them at home.
In their first FBS action, yeah. Texas going up, like an hour up the road, up 35 into Waco.
Depends on traffic.
They'd probably spend more time getting out of Austin than it will in the rest of the drive. They're getting 15 points in Waco. My neighbor, his father-in-law is actually a Texas fan. He's like, I got take us that game. You gonna go? He's like, yeah, I guess. Like, well, as a fan of neither one of these teams and not having any kind of allegiance, like besides like a t-shirt passing, I don't know like how his father-in-law is a Texas fan. It may be just a t-shirt fandom. It's probably not a bad game to attend. And that like Texas, I think is going to just wipe the floor with Baylor.
Yeah,
I think Baylor's been exposed. Yeah, give me Texas to cover that. Again, an opportunity for Baylor to come out and like say, actually, we're better than our record has shown, or better than what we've been able to put on the field so far. But maybe not against Texas. Maybe Texas like we're gonna now show the rest of we're gonna show the Big 12 on the way out that we're for real and that we're back this year. 6:30 on ABC that game. Central Florida coming to Kansas State, a very depleted Kansas State. I don't know if you saw that tweet, Michael. They're missing a bunch of guys. I think Will Howard is questionable.
Yeah.
One of the guys that went down against Missouri is out for the season. Anyways, a statement like UCF coming in first conference game, like ends on the road, 7 p.m. on FS1. An opportunity here to announce themselves as, hey, we're ready to compete in this league.
I'm pulling for Kansas State to win. But
I don't want
UCF
to be good this year because I want Texas Tech to beat them. But I also don't want Kansas State to be good because I want Texas Tech to beat them. Give me
I want
Kansas
them both to be really good and Texas Tech beat them.
Sure, how about that? UCF to cover, but lose. So a close game, but Kansas State pulls it out as a home.
That's what I'll hope for too. Despite all the, their depleted roster, hope everybody gets healthy again. But that's what I'll pull for too. Because I mean, UCF can score. Put up 56. Yeah, it was Kent State. They put up 48. Yeah, it was against Villanova. But they can score. But they can also struggle on the road. So
yeah, went to Boise, but only put up 18.
Yeah, I mean, without the injuries, I don't think I would hesitate to take Kansas minus 6.5. But
a night game in Manhattan, Bill Snyder Family Stadium could be rocking, dude.
Absolutely, the fans will be there. Just had a heartbreaker, 61-yard field goal, walk-off field goal loss last week. So I think everybody, the players, everybody's going to be doing everything they can to get back in the win column. But when you're that depleted, it just makes it that harder to open conference play. So yeah, UCF plus 6.5. That's where I'm feeling. But
All right, man.
grain of salt, because I don't know if I went in my action app. I usually do this on Saturday mornings, and I go through and I put some form of quote unquote action on each Big 12 game. And I was like 3 for 11 last week, my friend.
Ouch.
It was terrible. And I had a parlay. I had a 3-game parlay, just money line only, of Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and who else lost that shouldn't have lost? I forgot who it was.
Cincinnati?
Yes.
Hmm.
And all three of them were duds. So really, the 3-11 is generous. It's more like 3-14. So yeah, but my picks are usually trash. But I felt pretty good about most of these tonight. We'll see how they actually turn out. I'm not going to keep up with it.
Yeah. Well, Texas Tech has the opportunity to get off on the right foot in conference play. Really, I would love to say there are 3 very winnable conference games to start your Big 12 schedule: West Virginia, Houston, Baylor. 2 of those are on the road, though. But 3 teams that you look at and like say, I think you should have some confidence to win these games. But you got to play it. You got to play the game. Got to actually travel and perform. So, you want to finish this up and get to what do we learn?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
Right. Michael, I had a 3-year-old's birthday party at my house tonight. My 3-year-old.
Madness.
It was madness. And even though my body has at some point decided to hate a pizza, which is just most unfortunate, it is undefeated as just a crowd-pleasing, relatively cheap meal. We had 25 people in my house tonight, Michael. We bought 6 pizzas. We have basically 2 full pizzas left over.
Beautiful.
I spent $50 on pizza. And not like Little Caesars or frozen pizza out of the freezer section at the grocery store. No, I'm from Domino's, man. I got 6 pizzas from a carry-out place.
When we've hosted birthday parties, because we'll do different things, but we've actually done Dion's before because our little one
They're bigger
really
too.
likes Dion's.
Yeah.
And so we've done that too. But yeah, pizza's such a crowd pleaser, and it's not, relatively speaking, it's not messy. It's not like people are walking around with a plate full of chips and salsa or chips and queso, and there's just crunched drips of it's pizza's very portable, especially with the 3-year-old and all their friends. So yeah, just I'm at that same stage though. I can't do pizza anymore either. It's a shame. I hate it.
I hate it because I love pizza.
Well, yeah, and the cheese is what gets me, and so I just can't. I don't think I could come up with a good pizza without cheese. It just feels like one of those foods that I'm just gonna let go for the most part. It's too bad.
It's the meat for me.
Flavored Pringles. It's the same thing.
Not even close. It's the meat. It's the extra grease or something. It like just upsets my stomach. No, they're on that front. Not that anybody needs to know my medical history or what's going on in my life, but I have a upper GI schedule for next week, so I'll have some answers maybe by this time next week. I would have had my GI out. It's Tuesday afternoon.
That's a fun way to spend a Tuesday afternoon. Oh, so you'll be fresh. You'll be fresh from that
I'll have a great nap.
procedure.
Yeah.
And then we'll record.
Yeah. I'll tell you how hungry I was when I got home. Because it's one of those things where you can't eat or drink after midnight.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, they're like, we want you here at noon. I was like, oh my gosh, noon. Anyways, What did you learn,
I,
Michael?
I learned that the British can make a pretty good Western. So,
Like
on
a
a
movie?
whim, well, it's a 6-part series.
Okay.
So it's a digestible, it's a normal length episodes. I think there's only one episode over an hour, and I'm completely, oh my gosh, this is great. Completely blanking on the actress's name. How awful. She's married to John Krasinski.
Emma Stone.
No,
No, Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt. There you go.
I don't know why I thought that name first.
But she's,
and I just blurted it out like it was supposed to be right.
that's pretty close. That's good. You had the EM. I
Yeah.
was thinking something way off. I always forget anyway. It's a 6-part series. It's called The English, and it's on Amazon. And it is, I have to warn everybody though, before you run and go check it out, like, oh, it's a Western. Yeah, it's a Western, but it's a very violent Western. It's probably, it would be a very hard rated R if it was in the theater. I think I don't necessarily think it's gratuitous. I think it's just shows how harsh that era of the time could be. But it does, they have some characters that have suffered some really rough diseases and or treatment by others, to where it almost turns into some horror here and there. It's kind of funny. It's got funny parts. It was shot in Spain. It's gorgeous. I mean, it just looks like the plains of Kansas. I don't know. I had no idea it was shot in Spain until I looked at it later. But it just looks like the great open plains. It's fantastic. The cinematography alone will sell you. But anyway, that was it. I just learned that the Brits can make a pretty good Western when they want to. And there's a lot of British actors in it, and they have their accents because they all came from that's the gist of it. That was the term that I think a lot of people used for, well, for lack of a better word, for all the white people, for all the Anglos who came over. They're just, whether they came from Scotland or Poland or anything, they were just called the English.
Okay.
But really good performances. A lot of Native American actors in there who I didn't recognize and I didn't know of, but I will look up their work because they're outstanding, particularly the lead. He's from Oklahoma. Because I was telling my wife, I think I know so many things that I think I know more than I do, and accents is one of those things. So when someone's pulling off an accent that I think is fake, usually I can spot it. But this guy, he sounded like people you would hear talk, and he's from Oklahoma. So it just made sense to me. I don't know what it was. I was like, this guy's accent is super authentic. I don't think it's an accent. I think he's just talking. So I felt good about it. But anyway,
what's his character's name?
it was Eli Whip.
Okay,
Is the character's name, but man, I am blanking on the actor's name.
Chasky Spencer.
Yes,
It's either Chask or Chasky. CH. Oh, Cheske. There's a pronunciation guy there.
he was excellent. He's really, he just really gave a good performance too. So check it out, everybody.
Yeah, he first gained prominence through his role as Sam in Twilight.
I know he showed up on my screen like a movie star, and I'm going, who is this guy? I've never seen this guy before. And it's a shame that I hadn't.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry. Born in Oklahoma, grew up in Montana, and is part of the. Well, he is Lakota Sioux. Enrolled with the Fort Peck Sioux tribe of Montana. Anyway, may have to check it out.
Yeah, just know it's a. Yeah, It's an R movie.
All righty. Well, that'll do it for us in 23 Personnel Podcast. Got you the wrap up of Tarleton State, the preview for West Virginia, where Michael and I are both predicting wins for the Red Raiders on the road. Hopefully, with a little bit more of a cushion than just a few points, but that'll do it for us. For Michael and Spencer, catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.